Welcome to Power Lunch Live. It's great to be with you here on Thursday afternoon in July. I think what is it, the 9th or something like that? I can't believe it's already July. We're into summer. Doesn't feel like it. I don't know about you, but it's such a weird time. But anyway, that's beside the point. That's a whole nother conversation. The Power Lunch is here. What we do here is we bring on today's thought leaders, best-selling authors, CEOs, people who are doing amazing work in the world and in their companies that we can learn from. We can talk to them, pick their brain, find out what they're doing that's helping make them successful, so that we can all learn from it. Now, the fun part about that is it can be interactive. So get on LinkedIn, get on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and ask your questions. We monitor those channels throughout the broadcast, and we can ask our guests those questions. So please do interact with us and let us know what you're thinking. Now, give it a like or share. If you like the program, give it a like or share so that your network can benefit from the conversations as well. And obviously, we want to grow our audience. So please do that for us if you appreciate the program. Today, I've got Aaron Christopher, AC for short, Evans. He is a pioneer in conversational marketing. I want to dig into what that means and what that is. And co-founder and CEO of the company Drips. Drips is the first conversational texting company of its kind, founding a new category and leading the way for some of the biggest brands in the world to use automated, humanized conversations at scale on a daily basis. Drips engages in tens of millions of completely humanized conversations with zero client human side resources or operators. God, that I a lot of questions about that. So AC, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Rhett.
I have to start with your business and COVID and how are you guys doing? Everybody healthy and safe, and how has it affected your business?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Certain sectors, of course, have been hit harder than others. Drips services a variety of sectors: insurance, financial services, home services, collections, things like that, as well as a lot of digital agencies and performance marketing. So the one that we saw that got hit the hardest was home services. Of course, you think of companies like 3-Day Blinds. If you can't go into someone's home and their manufacturer plants are also not able to operate, then they effectively had to shut down almost completely. Other companies, insurance, stayed very steady. Mortgage, obviously, I don't know if you follow mortgage that much, but right. Interest rates have been crazy. So like they've been just underwater with business for different reasons. Performance marketing, there's more eyes on the internet than ever, especially over the last couple months. It's trailing off a little bit now, I'm seeing, but there's just more people reading the news, reading the blogs, reading all these different articles that are coming out. And so that causes a lot more traffic online, which causes a lot more clicks, a lot more leads. So that side of the business was up. Education and travel, we're not very much into those verticals yet. So it's just, we were relatively unaffected. If anything, we were positively affected because of the industries we do focus on saw some swells. But we're just lucky. We could have just as easily a couple of years ago focused on education and travel. We right. talked about it. We talked about it. We deliberately made an investment in insurance, and luckily, insurance is one of the industries that weren't as affected. Logistically speaking, we again, luckily, we're a lot of us are remote anyway. I think 3 out of 5 hires we do lately are somewhere other than Akron, Ohio. And we almost a year ago instilled some work from home policies. So we got people used to working from home 1 or 2 days a week. So, we had the right, security protocols and access and VPNs and all this stuff in place already. So we were able to move to work from home very quickly. We did it in early March. I think Ohio is one of the more aggressive states when they shut down, and we went home before we were told to go home, which I thought was
Right.
a healthy position to be in. So again, I ton of gratitude, a lot of luck, and a lot of timing. But knock on wood, we've been relatively unaffected. The way it affects us negatively is much more macro, meaning we were going to go into a fundraising effort the first half of this year. We've essentially paused on that. There's, if you're private equity or VC and you have money to deploy, there's just better deals out there right now. There's a lot of companies that aren't as lucky as us and that are much more heavily leveraged that they can bargain shop now. So, we don't want to really be part of that, nor do we need to. We're profitable and growing. So, that's disappointing because, we're looking to speed up as the market is opening up for this type of technology. But we don't think this is the right environment to try to raise capital. And then lastly, with the large companies that we're pitching to and selling, I mean, some of the biggest companies in the country and the world, a lot of them are, pausing on big commitments, vendor diligence, onboarding new technologies. So it's going to expand our sales cycle significantly. My hope and what I'm seeing happening, and we made a bet on this and still invested heavily in hires and senior account executive sales teams. The thought process is we're actually able to have deeper and more meaningful conversations now than we may have ever been able to in B2B enterprise, SaaS sales, because we're talking to somebody, a head of innovation or a head of procurement at, some of these big insurance carriers or large financial companies. And we're talking to them couch to couch, person to person.
Right.
There's a humanizing effect, I think, that's happened in B2B sales that to me is very refreshing. I don't feel like we need to posture or position as much on the Zoom calls and the pitches that we've been on. It's much more humanized. Somebody's pulling their toddler's foot out of their mouth, or the cat's jumping and grabbing the webcam, and it's just a really very, very, very humanizing effect, which I think is positive. And I think what will happen is as these companies start to onboard technologies and vendors as they have been, I think that emotional equity and time we spent in having, real good, thoughtful, considerate conversations will slingshot us into Q4.
I definitely want to get into into drips and what you specifically do, but you said a few things that I'm curious about. And just from you're a CEO and have been in business for a long time, and curious, how do you think COVID is going to affect? I mean, do you think a lot of companies are going to stay remote? Do you think this is going to be part of the new normal? I hate to use that cliche as a cliche now, but yeah. Do you think that that's going to be part of normal going forward?
It's interesting. Look, I'm having this conversation with my partners and our leadership almost on a weekly basis. I love the office personally. The buzz and the noise and the collaboration is intoxicating to me. But I've also found a new level of focus and impact. I'm working from our corporate condo right now, where we generally would have employees and partners and peers coming in and out of. I just kind of grab my desk and set it up over here. Instead of working at home with the toddler, crawling all over me. But so I don't know is the answer. I think long term, a lot of companies are going to go back to the old ways. I think some companies will, try to go remote completely. Part of that's attractive to me as well. I think if a company can go remote, and look, this isn't new. A lot of companies are completely remote, right? Like Zapier is completely remote. They have been from the beginning. And to be completely remote, you have to really have your stuff buttoned up. You have to have a level of excellence and a team of excellent operators that are on point to succeed that way. So it's been a really interesting challenge for us to go completely remote. And I've seen it. I've seen, some people rise and some people fall at all levels. in the organization going completely remote. You know, the first 5 days, of course, everybody's excited. The first 5 weeks, it's great, but it's kind of like I think the honeymoon phase of working from home is now over. I think it's, you know, it's March 1st at the gym, you know, and the New Year's resolutions have wore off. So
and you're not seeing any result. You know?
Yeah, you got it. So yeah, I don't know. Look, I mean, again, like we're thinking about it, right? Like I got employees and leadership and everybody saying, well, hey, look, like I feel like I'm having more impact at home now, right? I'm getting more focus, less distraction. You know, can I be treated like a remote employee when we do get back to the office? And, you know, we're leaning towards yes. We're looking at all options, though. We're looking, you know, at, you know, when can we get back to the office? When might we? How could we? What if we got somebody that lives 2 seconds from the office, but they want to be true to remote? If they can get their job done, why would we not let them? So I don't know. To me, I think it's a really interesting question. Yeah, it's a great problem. It's a great obstacle. It's opened the eyes to a lot of people that I think weren't comfortable with work from home. I mean, I remember in the beginning when me and my partners were debating, you know, how to do work from home, when, if. It was there was a lot of worry, you know, a lot of pushback on like, will people do the work? And we're seeing now that they can. Now, maybe it's because they have no choice. It's you know, 5 months is very different than 1 day a week.
Right.
But yeah, I always say, and I think it's not my quote, but the Ryan Holiday book, "The Obstacle is the Way." We are improving so much as an organization and as a company because of the forced focus. Something else I actually really like about, you know, completely remote or the companies that are that way is you don't have this kind of second class citizen. I noticed when we were at the office and 2/3 of the employees were at the office and 1/3 are scattered across the country, it just seemed like the people that weren't in the office weren't as known, weren't as aware, weren't as plugged in. You know, and second class citizen might not be the right term, but it just kind of felt that way. It's like, oh, they're remote, you know. Now the playing field is leveled, right? We're all on the same, you know, the same wavelength, which I like.
So it's actually, I mean, I always worry about culture. I mean, I'm thinking about this from a culture perspective. How do you maintain your culture? How do you, you know, but what you just said was really interesting, that maybe it levels the playing field. Maybe that plugged in thing that's a thing. I think that's a real thing. And now maybe it has even the playing field. Maybe that's a good thing.
I'll tell you what, that's the $1 million question, right? Like we have a very, very deliberate focus on culture. I mean, it's half of your performance metrics on your reviews. We have, you know, rules and transgressions and examples, and I mean, we hire for it, we fire for it. We put a very, very deliberate effort on culture and environment. We have since the beginning, and a lot of that environment and a lot of that culture was centered around the office. I mean, we have a full-time chef. You know, we have a full production kitchen. We would do big, I mean, just elaborate meals every single day. The whole company would eat together, and you know, arcade machines and, you know, Tetris tournaments and Mario Kart, you know, brackets and whatever. And that's just not possible now. You know, we would do quarterly goals and trips, right? You know, we were planning on going to Cedar Point this year. If we hit our quarterly or half numbers, we crush those numbers, and we have no idea how to celebrate that. You know, what do? Do you send everybody a couple $100 gift card? The economies of scale are different, right? Do you send everybody pizza? Do you send them, you know, beer to the house? That's the thing that I think is so tough. I'm actually reading a lot of books now and studies on, you know, companies that have been remote and how they build and grow and maintain culture, because whether we like it or not, we're stuck doing that at least for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think that's true. Okay, so let's get to drips, because I don't want to eat up any more of your time on just these sort of big philosophical leadership questions. I want to get into detail here. What is conversational marketing? What does that mean?
Yeah,
it's a new term to me.
Yeah, conversational marketing is you know what email marketing is, right? We know what display,
Right.
search engine marketing, SEM, SEO. Conversational marketing is a relatively new term, but you think of chat bots, you think of web chat, you think of conversations over text. Essentially, it's bringing somebody further down a funnel by having a conversation with them. You're not just pushing information, you're asynchronously holding a conversation with the consumer, educating them, bringing them further down the buyer journey. That's what conversational marketing is. What we focus on is conversational texting. So we're not focused on chatbot. We're not focused on web chat. We're not in the what I call the "how can I help you" business, which I think most in this sector are. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that's necessary. We have a chatbot on drips.com. We use actually I'm not sure which tool we use, but point being, that's how can I help you? That's good. It's support, it's awareness, it's two-way conversations. If people want to have it, people have questions, they can get answers. What we focus on is really holding deliberate contextual conversations at scale. So you think of an auto insurance provider, right? There's we work with Liberty Mutual, we work with Gainsco, and some of these big carriers. There's a lot of times where it would be a very good thing to reach out and let somebody know some piece of information. Hey, you just turned 25. Did you know that you can save money on your auto insurance? There's a hailstorm coming, Rhett. Make sure you pull in your car. I don't know if you guys get hail down in Brazil, but that could help lower claims. And the biggest thing is it's a great user experience. You think back to like when I was a kid and my parents had insurance, like we had a local insurance guy. We had a guy who would call us and check on us if we had a hailstorm. Like that doesn't exist anymore. Because it's so hard for these large enterprises to act small like that. And that's what I think all these big companies are trying to figure out. And, I believe, and we've been very bullish on it, that texting is the way to do that. Of course, there's a ton of considerations to go through that. But the difference between conversational texting and just texting is just push. That's Chipotle. Here's a coupon for your burrito. That's Walgreens. Hey, your prescription's ready, Rhett. The difference between conversational is, hey, Rhett, got your prescription. When would you like to pick it up? And you go, 6 o'clock. Great. Now we know I can prioritize Rhett's prescription versus somebody else's. I can then let them know at 6, hey, it's ready. Should we see you soon? ? Then you head up there, you get it, you pick it up. And then, imagine if Walgreens, asked if you had any questions. They followed up when you should be out and ready for a refill. I mean, how many half-empty bottles of amoxicillin are left, laying around the house, or refills aren't done. So, and all these companies, all these insurers and payers and pharmaceutical companies, like they're very interested in keeping people healthy, right? Like they want you to be healthy. They don't want to have a strain on the health system. But to do that is a very one-to-one, relationship. And to do that at scale is just terribly difficult.
Is it affordable? You mentioned the sort of the small local like insurance company. And I remember those days. I know exactly what you're talking about. I can even say her name. I won't say her name online, but I remember her name, and I could probably, I know exactly. I can picture her. But is it affordable, something like this, for small business? Is it affordable?
It is, and it's Drips is not for the small business. There are other companies though. There is Text Us, textus.com is one that I think highly of. There are many that are more DIY. We're what I call DFY, which is done for you. We're more custom solution, enterprise grade, scalable, burstable, meant for big volume. And we have a big team and a big infrastructure to support that. But what the SMB needs is generally just some enablement. They need to not try to do it from their phone. It's even if you're dealing with a few dozen clients, it gets terribly difficult to hold those conversations at scale, or to even keep track of them. But there's other companies like Bot Splash. I know the founders of them. They're very good. Anybody can go in, loan officers, insurance agents can use a tool like that and enable them to kind of hold a lot of asynchronous conversations at once, get reminders when people haven't followed up, give people dispositions, that's the first step, is just enabling your people or your team to do this in a more organized fashion. Enterprises have a different problem though, right? They have every day, some of these big insurers, as an example, they're having tens of thousands of people that get insurance quotes that don't close. How do you deal with that? Call centers don't work anymore. Nobody's picking up the phone. The email is lost within, a sea of emails, right? Billboards, nobody's looking at the billboards, right? They're not even looking at the road when they drive these days. They're all on their phones. Direct mail, nobody's combing through that. And the thing that's common with all of those forms of marketing is they're all push, right? It's just they're talking at a consumer. They're not talking to the consumer. They're not holding asynchronous conversations over a long period of time. They're just trying to steal your time with commercials, with billboards, with direct mail, with email, and try to get you to convert right at that moment. That's the difference between the old way of marketing and the new way of conversational marketing. Is conversational can take days, weeks, months if it needs to. It persists and it follows and politely reminds as time goes on, so that when the time is right, then the consumer can buy.
Do you think that this is, if you took your crystal ball out, how is this going to evolve? I mean, it seems like the technology is even getting so that this could be really, you're the only you don't really need to call an agent. You don't really need to call Liberty Mutual and talk to a physical person, because AI and through all of this it's going to all be automated, but you're not going to be able to tell the difference between talking to a real person and having a conversation on a text or even by phone with a.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think, if I go all the way into the future, which is call it a decade, I guess, I think a lot of this is going to be, whatever you want to consider it, Alexa, Google Hub, Siri. I think those devices that we already have and we trust, I think they are going to be how we hold these conversations. Hey Siri, I just got into an auto accident. Oh, I just launched my Siri. It's probably going to call 911 or something. But you know what I mean? Like all these text conversations that we hold, why couldn't they be mapped to an Alexa or a Google Hub, or something like that? Why can't I, buy insurance on my Alexa the same way I refill my Keurig K-cups? It's the same conversation to a degree. It's obviously a lot more considered. There's more nuance to it, but language is language. And if you can hold simple conversations in segments, like knowing somebody needs to get a quote, then knowing they got the quote and they need to do this, then knowing they signed the paperwork, but they still got to send in the license. If you can bifurcate those small segments and hold a deliberate conversational text, then I believe that you can eventually get to a point where, you can automate the whole thing. Again, that's a future state. It's a ways away. Natural language processing, machine learning isn't quite there. These systems don't necessarily know what the middle finger emoji means, but you can train it to,
Right. What is the open? I don't want to get into open. Well, maybe that's the question. But how much more effective is texting and having this sort of conversational text versus the pushing or the other, like you said, direct mail or billboard? I mean, are there numbers on how effective this is?
Yeah, I mean, it's significant. We see usually it's 60 to 80+% engagement rate on conversational texting. So if you think of, a call center One that's crushing it is getting 20, 25, 30% of the people on the phone. Email, if you got 20% open rate, not click rate, just open rate, just visibility, you're crushing it. Direct mail, I don't know how they measure that exactly. But yeah, I mean, the engagement's compelling. If you got the right consumers that are actually interested, if these companies have the right kind of consents in place, and you're not just marketing to people and spamming them, the engagement rate is it's unparalleled. I mean, there's nothing else like it. I don't know how it is with you, but I never answer unknown calls anymore. Even the ones that people know, they barely answer anymore. And my thesis behind that is pretty simple. It's like I don't know, like how it was for you, but when I was younger, if the phone rang, it was a super exciting time for me. And my sister, we would trip over each other to run to the kitchen to get the phone. Right. When somebody knocked on the door back in the day, it was an exciting moment. Right. It's like, oh, we got company. Everybody runs to the door to see who it is. Now somebody knocks on your door, you're like hitting the lights and who's there? You're like, it's just a different world. And I think the reason that it's so different is because we now, have these smartphones, and we have the internet, and we have Netflix, and we have Amazon, and we have Uber, and we have all these things to distract us. In the 80s, when I was growing up, I had nothing. We had, a pile of rocks. We had a tire swing, a sandbox. Yeah. And that was it. And if the phone rang, man, was that exciting. Now, if the phone rings, it's interrupting somebody from doing something they'd rather be doing. They'd rather be.
Remember when we got the long cord that you could actually stretch out and go, take it somewhere and maybe get a private conversation in. But that was,
But that's the difference. Everybody's busy now, right? Everybody expects whatever they want, whenever they want it. I mean, I don't know if you guys have, if like Uber Eats or DoorDash is super prevalent down there, but man, we use DoorDash and Uber Eats 3-4 times a week now. Like, why would I want to go to a restaurant and sit? I mean, now obviously with COVID, it's especially different, but we've been loving the on-demand food. It's less friction. It's just, and it's on my time. That's the big difference. Email, direct mail, commercials, that's on the company's time, right? That's when the company wants me to convert. But if it's on my time, and the enterprise gives me that option to buy when I want to buy and ask questions when I want to ask questions, and convert when I want to convert, it's just a much more engaging user experience.
Is it going to get to the point where it's smarter? I mean, we talked about this briefly, but is it going to get to the point where, let's say the insurance company asks me a question, or says, hey, it's going to hail, please, make sure you pull your car in, as an example. Mm-hmm. And I shoot back a question, hey, that makes me think I need to adjust my premium, or I need to adjust something, or make it. Is it going to get to the point where that it can understand that and engage with those issues, you think?
Oh yeah, we're there. I mean, we're there already. We have a bunch of different sentiment analyses, but you could look at somebody that said, I'm at work, and all the thousands of different ways you can say I'm at work. And that just means that they're busy and they can't talk, right? I need to adjust my premium, or I need to update my insurance, or I need to check on my policy. That's all. That's just another sentiment. And based on that sentiment, we can send back a pre-prescribed, human written message that is on brand with whatever Liberty Mutual or the client wants to say. Great, we'd love to talk about looking at your premium, Rhett. When's a good time we can chat? ? Now, long term, I think a lot of this is going to get pushed towards more app adoption. I had an auto accident not too far a few weeks ago, and I did a full virtual adjustment. It was with my carrier, Allstate, and it was great. Didn't have to do any appointments. Got the virtual meeting, walked around the car, showed them what they wanted to see, all through the app. I've done telehealth meetings, similar. wake up in a city where you don't know where you don't have your doctor, and you got some weird bug bite or rash or something, and you're just like, hey, what's this? And they can call in prescriptions, so I think most of the world is just going to go to more one-to-one conversation support specialists, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's all going to be living on our phones until a time where it can live on the Alexas and whatnot of the world. Because look, we don't want to be tethered to anything that we don't have to be. And if we can hold a conversation verbally and, asynchronously, then I think people eventually will get there, and they won't have to, type with their thumbs. Who knows? Maybe in 10 years, we'll be thinking thoughts to each other, we'll see.
I think I saw something about that the other day, about how that's sort of in the future. So I was looking at, I had a few comments, and I'll get to those in a minute. Push to pull. Okay, yeah. So these are just great comments. Thank you, Joss Paul. Let me see if I can get a question there. Great point. Get another comment. All right, cool. Well, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Jessica, for your comments. So the next question really is about you and your journey coming in as to where you are now, and you talk a little bit about nostalgia and how that can be toxic to self-improvement. What do you mean by that?
So one of our core values at Drips is improve. And when my co-founder and I, our CTO, Anthony, when we were establishing these core values, in the beginning for founders or anybody starting a business, if you do this exercise, the core values, to me at least, and the way I was trained on doing them and research doing them, was they should really be the DNA of the founders. It's the DNA of like, who are we, what matters to us? Because again, back then it was 3 people. It was me, Tony, and 1 employee. So there's not very much else to focus the core values around. And the point of it is, if we're hiring people, like, what traits and beliefs do we want them to embody, so that we want to be around them, like for like, right? And improve was one of the ones. Tony and I have always, we started our careers relatively young as entrepreneurs. Tony, I think, had his first business when he was 13. I was a little late bloomer. I was 17. And we've always iteratively tried to do better than, last year or last week or yesterday. Whether that's through split testing on a campaign for Drips, or through reading books, or through, I'm a big fan of talk therapy. Anything. I love it. I don't read fantasy outside of a couple comic books that I like. I'm always interested in trying to learn more and dive more into like what could be better. So yeah, I think nostalgia, when I said that, I may have just meant, like, you've heard the saying, like, it's the way we've always done it, right? And that's a bad sign, for a business. Even now, I'm different levels of the business. When we were at 10 people, we had different problems than we had at 3 people, then 25 people, then 50, now almost 90 people. And our big focus right now is scalability. Like, we are scaling, and I don't know if we are scalable. And when I say we, I mean our processes, our systems, our policies. There's just a lot of duplicative efforts, because we're not all on the same page as to like how to get to the next piece. So we have to improve. We can't just do what we used to do when we were building from 0 to 1. Now we're scaling, and that's a different. You have to level up. There's just no choice, or the company will stagnate. So right. That's how I think about it. I think, keeping our core values at heart, like lean is another one where, we're big on MVPs and proof of concepts and just lean startup methodology. And we try to be lean in all our decision making. But at the same time, you can't be thrashy, with a company of this size now. You can't pivot teams on a dime every day like we used to when there was, 6 or 7 of us.
Right.
So it's fun, it's challenging, it's fun. I'm having a great time. I think my partners and our leadership, we're very emboldened by the talent that we've been bringing on over the last few months. I mean, we paused hiring in March, just to be prudent, and see what was happening. But the second we saw no leading indicators of real problems amongst our portfolio of clients, we leaned into it heavily. I think we've probably hired maybe 15 people or more since then. So,
do you outgrow? Kind of interested in your growth, because I had a company about the same size, and it seemed that at certain points throughout those stages of growth and throughout those different stages of the business, we kind of outgrew some people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, and I hate when that happens. I think, I'm a people person. I'm very empathetic. I've felt myself get the company outgrow skill sets of my own or my partner, our CTO. Anthony used to run all our finances, and you get to a point where it's like, I am well out of my league. Then we get a CFO, and then we take that off of his plate and onto our CFOs. So I think people got to be humble in their abilities. I think they got to strive to improve, and that's why that to me is one of our core focuses.
How do you level people up? How do you level people up like that? How do you get people up? I mean, is it? I know you talk about culture. Is it? How do you train people? How do you get people to better themselves and be motivated to do that?
I think a lot of it is getting the right leadership. I mean, you got to have people that want to improve, that are passionate about what they're doing. I think passion, that's another one of our core values. Probably should have just did a whole podcast on core values, but we really believe in them, and if you get somebody that, like right now, a few months ago, we needed to level up our product team, right? Like the product team to a large degree was myself and Tony, as far as, roadmap and what we're working on next and how we're going to work on it, what's getting prioritized and all that stuff. And, that only scales so far when you get a dozen people in dev and you got another dozen in client success. Everybody wants something different, so we brought in somebody to run product and strategy who is very, very passionate about product and strategy. And look, Mary Catherine, she's forgotten more about how to run product than Tony and I ever knew, so a lot of it is humility and bringing in the right people to lead the different charges, humility from ownership and from other leadership. And then the other part is just, trusting them to do that. That's probably the part that I think we've struggled with the most at different parts of the company's journey, is just, bringing in somebody as the expert on a subject and then trusting them enough to let them fail, and then trying to help give our input, but not give direction necessarily. I see this again with our CFO and, new pricing models he's putting together. Like it's kind of scary, we're like, oh, well, that's not how we've done it in the past, but he's like, oh, this is how you scale, an enterprise SaaS solution. And, we have to be humble enough to trust that's right. So, leveling people up, I think it's all about asking questions, that's again, something that I've been trying to be better at over this last year or so. I think in the beginning, when you're building, and you're running out of money and you're just trying to get to profitability, it's all shoot and move. It's work as many hours as fast as you can, as much code commit, as many sales calls, as much marketing material, whatever that you can get out. And a lot of it is just direction. Hey, you do this. I'm doing this. Tony, you got that? Great. Boom, 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 boom. But now it's much more about like asking thoughtful questions. Be like, well, how are you thinking about solving that? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? That's how you level people up, is you get them to come up with the same idea or better idea than you would have alone. And again, that's something that I've been trying to be much better at, because it's always my knee-jerk reaction to kind of go back to my nature, which is just like, I think I know the answer. Here's the answer. Versus, what do you think? Right. and then maybe I learned something. I mean, most of the time I do, but it's slower and it's more methodical, and it's almost harder to bite your tongue when you're somebody that's used to running so fast, when you're in that build stage. But to scale, you just can't force it. And that's something that, we're having to be humble at and learn. Like, early on, if we're trying to break $1 million a year, like, I could force that, I could move the needle. But if you're coming up on $25 million a year, like, I alone, I can't force big numbers. Like, the economies of scale just don't work that way.
Right. How do you, and it's also coming down to, at this stage, probably in the company, where you probably hire better, right?
Yeah.
You've done it enough times now that the questions to ask, and probably have a solid approach. And I mean, I know when we first started hiring, the first couple of years, we did it so poorly, and I think at the end we kind of figured it out a little bit better. Do you think we've gotten better at that?
Absolutely. The one thing that I think we've gotten really good at is knowing who we might need 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now. Our head of sales, our EVP of sales, Noah Schneiderman, I'd known him for years. I mean, years. He met me when me and he always tells a joke. I was sitting on a box when I met AC, and he was working at a large enterprise AI SaaS company, just crushing it for them. And he just, he kind of kept his finger on our pulse. I kind of kept my finger on his pulse, and we joke and call ourselves star-crossed lovers, because we tried to make a deal a couple different times, bring him on board, but the timing just wasn't right. Either he was making too much money, or Drips wasn't able to pay him enough, or we didn't have the right need, or we weren't quite ready for enterprise. But I kept that talent very close and very near and dear. And eventually, when the timing was right, we got something to work, and he has brought on just an amazing sales team. And that, I think, is the difference. I think hiring people that are well trusted and well respected in their own industries, that can bring talent with them, that to me has been the big unlock. Like, all of our best leadership that we brought on, they have in turn brought on other people from their network, and if they can sell it before they've even really bought all the way into it, then you're doing the right thing. And when you bring in hires that are referrals of other hires, you get what I call a network coverage, where if my COO is going to go on the record and say he's got the right guy to be CFO, he now is much more invested in that CFO's success. And equally, the CFO cares a lot, because the COO's reputation is on the line. And then if you get another one from the same network, now that it's a little tighter, and it becomes this network effect. So that to me is the biggest difference. Is I mean, a lot of our hires now are coming from referrals from leadership and within, which I just think is great. And we ask our team all the time, we're like, hey, who do you know that is just an A player, that is just a killer? I don't care if they're a killer janitor, like, if they're the best janitor, I want to know about them,
Right.
So that's been something we've been very deliberate about. And then the other side of it is firing. We were horrible at firing. I'm horrible at firing, but now we have review processes, and, we're much more tuned in to, who needs to go, who doesn't need to go. That was I had a CEO coach a long time ago, and that was the first thing he tried to instill in me is, if you've thought about firing somebody twice, you've thought about it one too many times. And I remember thinking that was very cold and very cutthroat when he told it to me. And then I started thinking about it, 2 years down the road, when we finally let go of somebody, or they quit, a lot of people, let themselves go. And I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I've been thinking about firing that person for a long time. And then I think equally about our A players, the people that, I would feel like I lost an arm if I lost them. And I've never thought about firing them. I've never even considered it to be an option that they might quit. So, we've gotten much better at that. I think that's equally as important to hiring.
Yeah, because if you don't, those people will quit.
That's right.
I mean, you will lose your good people if you don't. Yeah, if you don't deal with people who aren't working out. So this has been fascinating. I have one more question. It's kind of a two-part question. What scares you right now, and what are you excited about?
I think the answer is probably both, or answers both those questions. Let me think about it though. Yeah, what scares me right now is just like we've built a lot of systems. We've brought on a lot of talent, and we have the tools to scale the business. We got a lot of investment in sales, a lot of investment coming in CS, a lot of investment in products. So I think of it kind of like the funnel, right? Bring in the sales, and you need people to manage those relationships. We need product to support. My thing that scares and excites me is like we're hitting another level of scale that is outside of the realm of my and some of our other ownership's expertise. The thing that excites me is I believe we have the people, the leadership, the processes, the systems in place to do it. So I'll be honest, a year ago, when we were scaling, like we were getting it all done, like everything was working, everything's up and to the right, we're the 12th fastest growing company in America or whatever, getting all the awards and everything. But it felt very hard, right? It was a lot of work by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that only scales so far. You can only, like I said, you can only push it, with raw effort so much. Eventually you have to go back and rely on the systems and the dashboards and the reports and the alerts and things that help a company scale to the next level. So that's my big thing is just, I think we got all the right people in place. A lot of it now is going to be adopting the systems and the processes that those people put in place. Like even product as an example, Mary Catherine, our head of product, she gave me a talking to on Tuesday because I, kind of skipped ahead of some product process. And again, and I apologized. I was like, look, I just, saw a problem. It's just my nature to try to solve the problem. And I realized that 8 days had gone since the problem was identified and nothing happened because I didn't follow the process. I didn't put a feature request into a system that wasn't tracked. It wasn't prioritized. It wasn't on anybody else's radar. So that's what I'm excited about personally is like falling into some of these processes and these products and leaning on them so that I don't have to worry and try to force this stuff as much.
Yeah, I love it when your talented people call you out on your stuff. That's actually a good moment that there's enough trust, right? I think it actually speaks to the culture of the company, like you were talking about, that she can come to you and say, "Hey, get out of my way."
Yeah, look, myself and my co-founders, Tom and Tony, both, like I consider us all kind of humble narcissists. Where like if we think we know better, like we're gonna let you know that we think we know better, and we're gonna generally want to go with our perceived expertise in a subject. But if our CFO, who we've instilled a lot of trust in, says that this new pricing matrix is the way to go, we just, all right, sounds great, sounds good. Same thing with MK and product. As soon as she tells me that's not how product process works, I go, oh, okay, how's it work? So it's a strong balance. I think you want leaders that are strong-willed and believe in themselves and have a little bit of narcissism, because you kind of have to think you can get these types of companies to the scale we're trying to get them to, but they have to be humble enough to listen, to listen to the talent and to take direction themselves.
Well, hey, congrats on the awards. I know that Deloitte is a big one, and Congrats on that, and congrats on all the growth. It'll be fascinating to watch where this goes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's. I mean, the companies we're talking to some. We've signed some Fortune 10 companies. A lot of Fortune 100 companies coming on board. It's super exciting. It's a really cool new tool and methodology that I think is going to drive a lot of great user experience. And the cool thing is about it now is we're no longer having to sell it. It's not like I was selling black magic 2 years ago when I was pitching, T-Mobile. But now we have real proof, we have real case study, we have real examples of how to make this work, and we're largely seen as the thought leaders in the space for it. So now it's all about how do we keep up the scale while the market opens up, and people start to shop for this type of thing. Yeah.
Well, good luck and stay in touch. Let's touch base every once in a while and see how it's going and connect in that way. I'd love to keep up with you guys.
Yeah, great, Rhett. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for being on the Power Lunch today. Thanks for all the comments. Got some great comments in. Thanks for listening. You can check out the upcoming schedule at powerlunch.live, powerlunch.live. We will see you next week. Have a good day.